speak on our behalf?
No, no, I've been doing this for like, the variances are a lot easier, because guess what? High, otherwise it doesn't work. Houses of cell towers, because they can't go higher. Don't argue that either. Okay, but you're not here, are you?
Audio test, testing 1, 2, 3. Audio test, testing 1, 2, 3. Good morning, everyone. Fernando Campos, Executive Officer. Today, Friday, February 10th, 2023. We should get started in the next minute. For list of presenters, item number 1 will be presented by Ethan Wong. Item number 2 will be presented by Wesley Tenajiri. Item 3, Ethan Wong. Items 4 through 9, Angela Martinez. Angela, we're going to ask the board to consider items 4 through 9 together, if that's okay with you. Item number 10, Sal Almeida. Good morning, Sal. Should be a relatively short agenda for today, or meeting for today, so it won't be such a long wait for you, Sal. For those Bureau representatives that are on the line through Zoom, Dr. Pujari, Clinton, Richard, and Prashant, thank you all for being here this morning. Should the board have any questions for your Bureau, we'll go ahead and open up the audio lines at that time. Just to make sure and confirm that you can hear us on the Zoom application, Richard Louie, good morning to you. If you can just open up your microphone and just confirm if you can hear us.
I can hear you. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. Perfect. At this time, if you're a member of the general public that would like to provide general public comment or commentary on any of the items for today's agenda, if you can please raise your hand at this time by pressing *9. If you're joining us through the Zoom application, there is a raise hand icon located at the lower right-hand side of your screen. You can go ahead and press the raise hand icon at this time. Again, this is for members of the general public that would like to provide general public comment. If you can please raise your hand at this time by pressing *9 or click the raise hand icon. If you're joining us live here at City Hall, there are speaker cards located at the back end of the room. You can go ahead and fill out a speaker card and hand that over to me, and we would go ahead and add you as a speaker for any of the items or general public comment. Seeing no hands raised, last call for any members of the general public that would like to provide general public comment or commentary on any of the items for today's agenda. If you can please raise your hand by pressing *9 or click the raise hand icon if you're joining us through the Zoom application, or to submit your speaker card if you're here live at City Hall. Seeing no hands raised, President Garcia, we can get started. We do have Commissioner Villegas who just walked out the room. Do you want to wait a few minutes?
No, we can get started.
Just establish quorum. Okay, perfect. Let me go ahead and start the recording. President Garcia, you are now in record mode.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting for Friday, February 10th, 2023. Dr. Campos?
Good morning, everyone. Fernando Campos, Executive Officer, establishing roll calling quorum. President, we have President Garcia, Vice President Villegas, President Pro Tem Davis, Commissioner Corzan, and Commissioner Reyes. President Garcia, you do have a quorum at this time. President Garcia, we do have one caller on the... Oh, sorry. We do not have any callers on the line for general public comment. We have no commentary on any of the items for today's agenda, and we also have no commentary on or for the neighborhood council section. Again, no speaker cards.
Okay. All right. Given that no one's here for general public comment is now officially closed. Moving on to the first item of today's business, which is the approval of the minutes for Friday, January 27, 2023. Is there a second to my motion to move this item forward and forthwith?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Davis. Dr. Campos, there's a first by me and a second by Dr. Davis to move the approval of the minutes.
Absolutely. We'll start the voting tabulation now. We'll start with you, Madam Chair.
Aye.
Vice President Villegas.
Aye.
President Pro Tem Davis.
Aye.
Commissioner Corzan.
Aye.
And Commissioner Reyes.
Aye.
This motion is adopted and carries unanimous. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much for that. Well, welcome, everybody. Happy Friday. It is officially the mid-February already. So thank you all for those that are joining us virtually and everybody that's here personally. Thank you so much for being here. It's going to be a short meeting on a Friday, which is good. Everybody gets to go home and take off their suits. I just want to say that. Thank you, everybody, for being here. And we'll start with item number 1. This is a Bureau request from Bureau of Engineering in Council District 6. Revised construction budget and supplemental agreement change order number 1, Kiewit Infrastructure West Company for the Donald C. Tillman Water Reclamation Plant, Advanced Water Purification Facility, Primary Equalization Basin Project CIP 6888, DCTWRP Emergency Backup Power Project CIP 6145, DCTWRP Avers and Evis Gates Replacement Project CIP 6231, and Donald C. Tillman Water Plant Reclamation Plant, Pumps Inlet Gates Project CIP 6234, and Japanese Garden Lake Effluent Bypass Project CIP 6235. Recommending the board to, one, approve the revised construction budget of $58,801,488 for the DCTWRP Emergency Backup Power CIP 6145, the CTWRP Avers and Evis Gates Replacement CIP 6231, and the Screw Pumps Inlet Gate CIP 6234. 2, authorize the city engineer to issue supplemental agreement change order number 1 to Kiewit Infrastructure West Company for the deductive amount not to exceed $55,191,821 for the contract to reduce the scope of work to align with the recently executed MOA between the Bureau of Sanitation and the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power. 3, authorize 2 members of the board to sign the supplemental agreement change order number 1. And 4, authorize the city engineer to issue subsequent change orders up to the revised construction budget of $58,801,488. And this morning, we have Mr. Wong on this item. Good morning, sir. Welcome.
Good morning, everyone. This is Ethan Wong with the Bureau of Engineering's Environmental Engineering Division. So yes, the request before you today is to revise our construction budget for what we call the Donald C. Tillman mega projects. So these consist of the Advanced Water Purification Facility Primary Equalization Basin, the Emergency Backup Power Project, the AVORS and EVIS Gates Replacement Project. AVORS stands for Additional Valley Overflow Relief Sewer, and EVIS stands for East Valley Interceptor Sewer. In addition, there is the Screw Pumps Inlet Gate Project and the Japanese Garden Lake Effluent Bypass Project. So these group of projects were bid together and were awarded to Kiewit Infrastructure West on January 21st, 2022, for a total of just over $111 million, with a total construction budget, including contingency, of $116,975,100. So the primary equalization basin project is a precursor for the advanced water purification facility that Los Angeles Environment and Los Angeles Sanitation and Environment is doing in conjunction with the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power. So because when we received bids on this project back in May of 2021, we did receive bids over the city engineer estimate of $83,191,000. There was discussion amongst LA San and DWP on the cost sharing, and there have been negotiations ongoing on memorandum of agreement of how to pay for that project, as well as the advanced water purification facility. Recently, in December of 2022, the Advanced Water Purification Progressive Design Build project was awarded to Jacobs Engineering after a memorandum of agreement was executed between LA San and the Department of Water and Power. They agreed that the progressive design builder should have the opportunity to value engineer and look for efficiencies in the design of the equalization basin, and therefore it should be removed from the contract that was awarded to Kiewit back in January of 2022. So the major item here before us is to delete the primary equalization basin project out of this project, and in addition, the Japanese Garden Lake Effluent Bypass Project, which is also another ancillary project to the Advanced Water Purification Facility at Donald C. Tillman. So the remaining projects will be the Emergency Backup Power, the AVORS EVIS Gates Replacement, as well as the screw pump inlet gates replacement. These three remaining projects are critical to operations at the Donald C. Tillman plant. Currently, there is no emergency backup power at Donald C. Tillman, so if there is a power failure, there is no way to run equipment currently. So that is a vital project for resiliency and operations. The Avors-Evis gates replacements represent gates on two major sewers that bring effluent into the plant. These sewers are roughly 9 feet in diameter, and the gates themselves are 8 by 8 foot square gates and require a substantial bypass to replace 8 of these gates with different branches into the major sewers. These major sewers and gates will provide flexibility for bypassing around the plant if necessary to prevent spills and are critical for operations. Currently, they do not function, and there is limited flexibility for operations staff in the event of needing to bypass flow. The same can be said for the screw pump inlet gates. They are also critical facilities at our Headworks facility where influent enters the treatment facility. And so all of these gates are past their service life and need to be replaced. So we are requesting a supplemental agreement change order to be issued as the total value of the deductive change order we are requesting, which would be $55,191,821, is over the 25% of the total construction value. That will necessitate the need in our contract to issue a supplemental agreement change order to queue it. Once that change order can be issued, that'll leave us a construction budget of $58,801,488 for the remaining three projects that I mentioned previously. That sums up my report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions related to this project. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Wong, for your report. Any questions, commissioners? Vice President Villegas, you have your light on?
Just a quick question. If you can just review the budget again, so that we have just a clear understanding of what's being, I guess, through, being financed through our coffers versus Department of Water and Power.
Sure. So the two projects that were financed by the Department of Water and Power were the primary equalization basin and the Japanese Garden Lake effluent bypass project. We are asking for the ability to remove those two projects from this contract. So the funding from Department of Water Power will not affect the remaining three projects. Those will all be financed directly from sewer construction and maintenance funds.
Okay, and then will Department of Water and Power deal with the other two?
Yes, so the plan for the other two is to evaluate with the progressive design builder, Jacobs Engineering, on the equalization basin project. So that project will be proposed to be transferred over to that design builder. So they'll look at design opportunities with the equalization basin moving forward. So that'll be pushed off into the future. In addition, the Japanese Garden Lake effluent bypass is still ongoing with an environmental impact report. So at this time, it can't be constructed until that is complete.
Okay, all right, so Jacobs will be doing the primary equalization piece?
Correct.
Okay, and so I understand that they're going through just their pricing and their evaluation of how much that's going to be.
Correct. The project was bid into this project as a design build component of this project. So there are a lot of design that it still needs to happen. So the entire project, the design build portion, will move over to that contract.
Okay. Do you know, is Jacob still gathering their team?
Jacobs has done a design kickoff, but they're really early in the process. So yeah, they're still gathering their team. I would say that's accurate.
Okay. All right. I appreciate you explaining that. Thank you. I don't have any more questions.
Thank you, Vice President Villegas. Dr. Davis?
Yes. I wanted to find out in terms of you said 55 million that we are primarily talking about on this motion?
Correct, yeah, the $55 million is the cost savings that we will realize from deducting the equalization basin and the Japanese Garden Lake effluent bypass project from these projects. Because these projects were originally received bids back in 2021, and NTP obviously has been delayed from that time frame. There have been significant additional costs experienced on the remaining 3 projects, which include the emergency backup power, which have to do with generator sets that will be placed on the project, as well as these large gates for both the Avors Evis gates replacement and the screw pump inlet gates. The entire construction industry has experienced during this time frame substantial market prices increases due to escalation and other global factors such as the pandemic and other issues around the globe. Fuel prices have increased, and all of these drive up these construction costs. So because we are asking for the authority to issue a supplemental agreement change order, this gives the opportunity for the contractor to renegotiate certain terms. So there is some increased cost factors to the remaining 3 projects, would bring the remaining budget, once the deductive change order of $55 million is issued, that'll leave a remaining budget of $58.8 million.
With a contingency in that $58 million, correct?
Correct, yeah, we expect to negotiate construction costs below that $58 million, and we will have contingency available.
Do you know if, in fact, we will have revealed any additional opportunities to add new vendors, perhaps at the subcontracting level, as a result of the realignment that we have proposed in this motion?
Yes, I believe since this is a change order that we are exercising at this moment with Kiewit, there will be opportunities for small business enterprises, minority business enterprises, women business enterprises to be re-engaged in scopes of work as the scope of work is changing and is a little bit fluid at this time.
Great. Now, based upon the realignment in terms of those that are being proposed to continue work under this $58 million, including contingency, as we look at this reality, how have we assessed the inclusion thus far in terms of those that we now have before us in this motion? I realize there are the other 2 projects that you have separated that potentially may be those that will be managed by Jacobs, but in terms of those that we have identified to move forward with, how have we looked at what we've been able to do in the past as it relates to small business inclusion on that? Do we have that information?
Yeah, I can answer a little bit of that, Commissioner Davis. So the original bid did include 3 subs that were minority business enterprises, small business enterprises, and emerging business enterprises. So some of these subcontractors that were listed in the original award board report, taking, for instance, Murphy Industrial Coatings, they originally had 4.57% of the overall $111 million contract, which equates to just over $5 million of the work. They're a coating subcontractor, and their prime source of work on this project was coating the equalization basin. Because that is being eliminated, there won't be the amount of opportunity for this subcontractor anymore, unfortunately. But we will evaluate, as the scope has been reduced and changed, there will be opportunity for other items. We do have some permanent bypass changers that will require coding. So, we will look at subs like Murphy still, do that work.
Sure, and I think perhaps the fact that we will have an opportunity moving forward to possibly consider small businesses, women-owned businesses, and others in the potential opportunities that might come up would be encouraging, if that be the case. I mean, if we're talking about $58 million, it would be great if we could have some opportunity for some of the small businesses to be a part of that. That is, in many ways, a significant amount of resources that we have in this project. So I would certainly support and encourage that moving forward. My final question is the timeline of completion. What do we anticipate the timeline of completion of this project would be if we supported it today?
So because this project includes a very major bypass that can only be done during the dry weather seasons, which occur between April and October, so there are limited times for both procurement of the gates and basically putting in the sewer bypass. The overall original contract duration is 1,095 days. Based on whenever the NTP is actually issued, following this, we will, the project will flow after that. So it'll be over 3 years before the project is done.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Davis. I see Commissioner, but I think Commissioner Corson had it on before Commissioner Reyes. So Commissioner Corson?
Thank you. Dr. Davis raised some good points that I was already thinking about, so I'm going to add on some questions to that. The original contract was approved in January of 2022. So it's been 13 months almost. When did, and I'm going to focus my questions on the subs, when did the subs get notice that there might be a change coming and, for example, a Murphy Industrial may lose the contract?
So as from the point of the award, we were unsure what direction we were going with the equalization basin. Different opportunities were looked at to potentially resize the basin under this project. So subs like Murphy were engaged throughout that process. So that happened shortly after the January 21st, 2022 date of the award. And they have been engaged since that time frame. Just, towards the last quarter of 2022, we were, the agreement was made between DWP and LA Sand to remove the equalization basin from this project. So at that time, they were informed that the bulk of their work was changing and it would be limited to what we did with the bypass chambers.
Okay. Dr. Davis also asked about how, the percentage changes and opportunities. I would appreciate in future packets when we do change orders, and maybe as a board we can discuss what the dollar amount of that change order is, but a breakdown that kind of shows, the changes in allocation to subs. So if this one's going down $50-something million, what is the new breakdown of subs participating? Because that's kind of vague at the moment. So that would be helpful to know. For example, even if it's just 3 out of the 5 projects, if they still meet the guidelines or the benchmarks that were set when the contract was awarded. But I think as a board, we should determine what is that dollar amount when it changes to include that. And then the third thing, just to add, is I know things change a lot, and the whole world is comfortable with change at times and uncomfortable with change at times. But for small businesses, when they get one of these awards, it's very meaningful for them. They start immediately thinking about lining up financing and bringing on staff, getting material. And as we all know, the supply chain being what it is, it's expensive and hard to come by. We should try and not award contracts if we know if in a year it's going to change, or be more upfront with the subs that do participate, that not to fully invest in whatever the work is going to be until there's some clarity in it. Because if they make that investment There aren't that many cities of LAs for subs to do business with. So just if we could be a little bit more, and it sounds like you were, I'm not saying you weren't, but just being mindful of that in other contracts, of being mindful of the investments businesses can make in preparing to start work. So those are my three thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Corson. Do you want any reply?
Oh, yeah, thank you, Commissioner Corson, for your comments. Yeah, this is not typical of how we typically do business when we award a contract and then have a deductive change order. This is really a unique circumstances, so your comments were well said, and I understand them thoroughly, and yeah, we tried our best to be transparent with all of these small business entities of what's going on. And when you do award a contract, we don't look forward to, having these massive deductive change orders. This is really a kind of very unique situation.
Thank you so much, Ethan. Commissioner Reyes.
I just want to echo my colleagues' concerns as well for clarity and for transparency. This is a complicated supplemental agreement change. There's many nuances to the different activities that will be performed. And if we're framing it as like that we have some savings here, it's not really. I mean, I think we have to really look at, again, where the efficiencies are going to be, because we're moving monies from one activity to another, and it will result possibly, number one, in scope creep, and number two, there is a potential for additional costs along the way as those changes happen, because there's still not enough detail as to what the project will look like. So having said that, I do want to, thank you for, having that agreement with the LADWP, because that was a long time coming. We do need that in terms of the infrastructure improvements that will be happening, especially on the advanced purification side. So thank you for that. And then lastly, it's also my sort of like more of a comprehensive vision that all of these things that we're doing specifically related to this Tillman, how is that connecting to improvements where we are looking into preventing what happened at Hyperion? I could see some of the projects here that, relate to some of the activities and scope that will prevent that, but I'm just really curious, are you guys looking into that as well?
Yes, thanks, Commissioner. Starting with your first question related to, the budgetary concerns and scope creep and additional costs and whatnot as we move forward with these three important projects. The supplemental agreement before you today will reestablish this new budget. That doesn't mean we're done looking at ways to value engineer the project. We are also requesting, authority to issue subsequent change orders. We're hoping that we can really work with Kiewit to identify cost savings and ways to be more efficient in progressing with the work on these three remaining projects. And we will notify the board of any significant savings we can identify. But at this point in time, we know we can finish this project if we're granted the authority to move forward with the new $58.8 million budget. We do not expect to exceed that new budgetary authority. Sorry, the second question you mentioned was, if you could remind me, sorry.
Just wanted to thank you for the MOA with DWP. The third one is really about the improvements that are going to help prevent any leakage that happened to another plant that we have.
Got it. Yeah, no, thank you. Yes, so The three remaining projects all provide operational flexibility and are resiliency measures for the plant. So starting with the emergency backup power, as I mentioned, during a major power failure, there is no current way for the plant to remain in operation. With the generators that will be added to this, if there is a catastrophe or an event similar that knocks out power, we will have these backup generators where we can still operate pumps and move and bypass flow to other areas of the plant to prevent a major sewer spill. In addition, these AVORS-EVIS gates currently are all seized. Both the AVORS and EVIS sewers have many branches that come in, so there are several gates we are replacing, and all of these really don't function at this point. When they are functional, which they will be after these projects, it will provide flexibility to bypass around the plant. So that is also another critical factor that will prevent spills that have happened on other plants. And in addition, same thing with the screw pump inlet gates. Those will allow operational flexibility and functionality to divert flows to different areas of the plant.
Thank you, that's reassuring to hear. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Reyes. I don't see any other lights. Ethan, just for the record, this will not have an impact on the general fund, right?
Correct. This all comes from the sewer construction and maintenance funds.
Great, thank you. I'm excited because I do not want us to be in a situation where our plant is not functioning for any reason. And so I do look forward to the generators that you will be placing so that we do not go through that type of a process. There's just so many things happening right now that it's crucial that we get that happening out there. Any other questions, colleagues, comments, objections?
I just
Sure.
want to recap to say that I hope that this deliberation and discussion has resulted in the message that with this $58 million, when there is an opportunity, we hope that the inclusion of small businesses in that community is an intricate part of this whenever possible. I hope that that is the message that was transmitted through this discussion today.
Absolutely. We will definitely convey that and work with Kiewit to engage those different subcontractors into this project.
Thank you, Dr. Davis. All right. You made a motion? All right, I'll second your motion.
I just want to make a comment.
Sure. Vice President Villegas?
Just a comment, but maybe you can clarify too. Ethan, this project will also have a project labor agreement, correct?
Correct, yeah.
That'll just open up the opportunities for others as well and local business hire
Perfect.
because of the cost. Thank you.
Thank you for that. That kind of also makes us feel a little better regarding the business inclusion part, kind of evens it out, sort of. Not really, but we can live with a PLA installed with this. I'm happy that we will have a PLA in here. Okay, so I think Dr. Davis made a motion to to move forward item number 1. Yes. I have seconded his motion. Dr. Campos, there's a first by Dr. Davis and a second by me to move item number 1 forward and forthwith.
Absolutely. We'll start the voting tabulation now. We'll start with you, Madam Chair.
Aye.
Vice President Villegas, President Pro Tem Davis.
Aye.
Commissioner Corzan.
Aye.
And Commissioner Reyes.
Aye.
This motion is adopted and carries unanimous. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Thank you, Ethan. We're going to give you a slight break to take number 2, and then you'll be back for number 3.
Thank you.
All right, colleagues, moving on to item number 2. This is in all council districts. This is a above-ground facility ordinance hardship waiver, utility permit, and revocable permits. Charter Communications for 72-hour backup power, California Public Utilities Commission Decision 21-02-029, Rulemaking 18-03-011. Recommending the board to, 1, approve the request for a hardship waiver from the below-grade requirement of the above-ground facility ordinance per Los Angeles Municipal Code, Section 62.08, 11A, for the 181 proposed cabinets. 2, authorize the Bureau of Engineering to issue a utility permit to Charter Communications to install cabinets in the public right-of-way for the 72-hour backup power as required by the California Public Utilities Commission Decision 21-02-029, rulemaking 18-03011 provided that they meet all the other rules of the AGF ordinance and related to BOE conditions. 3, authorize the BOE to issue revocable permits for the cabinet installations related to the 72-hour backup power requirement in the public right-of-way while they are still under the AGF review, with a condition that the applicant will relocate the AGF if necessary, according to the outcome of the AGF review. And this morning, we have here Mr. Wesley Tangiri for this item. Thank you very much. And I know we also have folks from Charter Communications here, right? Got it. Thank you. Good morning, sir. Welcome. We welcome Tanad also.
Good morning. Wesley Tanagiri, Bureau of Engineering, Central District Office Manager. If it's okay with the board, I'm going to have my AGF Supervisor, Tanet Sadtidkit, and AGF Expert provide you the report.
That's fine. Thank you very much.
Good morning. Tanasa Tidkid, Bureau of Engineering. So this item is related to the Charter AGF backup power project as required by the California Public Utility Commission, or CPUC. So Charter Communications, or the applicant, has identified 181 locations that would need hardship waiver. Those locations fall under 5 main special areas. Area number 1, specific plan areas. Number 2, historical preservation overlay zone. Number 3, community design overlay. Number 4, area adjacent to scenic highway. Number 5, area adjacent to open space zone. According to the hardship waiver request from the applicant, the requirement to place the AGF installations below grade would pose technical and financial hardships. Reason number 1, installing the backup power underground would make the equipment be susceptible to moisture damage, which would lead to inherent unreliability during an electric grid outage. Reason number 2, installing the backup power underground would also require additional equipment, including sump pumps, batteries for the sump pump, and cooling system, which would consequently increase the footprint of the backup power system while having to be within the 50 feet of the existing facilities. The size of the vault, as provided by the applicant, is estimated to be 17.5 feet in length, 7.5 feet wide, and about 19 feet in height, in depth. Reason number 3, a large underground vault would require multiple months of planning and testing. Reason number 4, requiring the backup power to be placed underground would also add significant costs, including the design cost for each vault location, higher maintenance costs of the batteries, cost for purchasing sump pumps, and cost for new cooling systems. As provided by the applicant, it would cost approximately $1 million per site to install the backup power in an underground vault. Reason number 5, private property alternatives would not be feasible due to the 50-foot limit and the short timeline, because the easement negotiations for placing the AGF on private properties could take several months. Additional note, the Department of City Planning has noted that for the AGF installations that require city planning approval, each location would need to be approved by the appropriate design review board for each overlay. As for the BOE determination, the site locations were determined by Charter to be the best technical locations with respect to their resiliency and amperage needs for the areas as required for compliance with CPUC requirement. The BOE agrees that installing the backup power underground would be costly, and it would require a large underground vault for the environmental controls. Charter will be required to meet all conditions required for the hardship waiver request of the AGF ordinance. This also includes obtaining city planning approvals. Lastly, due to the short timeline, installing these backup battery facilities In compliance with the CPUC order, it is proposed that the BOE be authorized to issue revocable permits, if requested by charter, for the cabinet installations related to the 72 backup power in the public right-of-way while they are still under the AGF review, with the condition that the applicant will relocate the AGF as necessary according to the outcome of the AGF review. This concludes my presentation. I am open to any questions you may have.
Thank you, Tanad, for your presentation. I do appreciate it. Any questions, colleagues? Vice President Villegas?
Yeah, just a quick question. Some of these above-ground facilities, they're going to be in, you said open space?
Adjacent to open space zone.
Adjacent to open
Right.
space? Where in specific, do you know?
We have the list in transmitter number 3, but most of the times it's adjacent to a park, and typically they are in the sidewalk areas.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Villegas. Commissioner Corson?
Thank you. I know when we approved this, there was a lot of talk, and you were coordinating with city planning to kind of really expedite this and make it as streamlined as possible. Could you provide an update on where city planning is in that process?
So we had a meeting with city planning last year. They informed us that each location would need to be reviewed by each design review board because of different requirements and regulations for each review board. Spectrum is in, I believe Spectrum is in the process of in contacting with city planning.
Okay. How many are left for city planning to review as of this morning?
So from what I understand from Charter, and might be also appropriate for Charter to come up and say this, but they may not have reached out to city planning since last year because they wanted to focus on those that are that do not need city planning approval first.
Okay. Do you have a ballpark on how many that is? And
In city planning?
yeah, and when those are approved, do they one by one come back to us for approval? What is the process?
No, that's why we have this this item. So currently, up to today, we have 149 locations that would need city planning approval, and with this hardship waiver request, they would not need to come back to the board for after they obtain city planning approval.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Reyes. Dr. Davis?
Yeah, I wanted to ask in terms of the review is from city planning. You mentioned earlier in your presentation that we would be required, or we are being requested to authorize the Bureau of Engineering to give the permit until such time they have resolved the issues in the review, correct?
That's correct.
And what agency is doing review that you're speaking of?
City planning.
Okay, city planning review. And what are the major issues in the review for city planning?
Different, like I said, different design review board may have different requirements. It may be aesthetics, parking laws, landscaping, and so forth.
Okay, all right. Okay, that's what I wanted to know. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I do have a couple questions to ask, a couple of them, actually. Are these the total that we are going to put in public right-of-way areas, 181 of them? Or do we expect more?
These 181 locations are the locations that fall within the special zones that would need the hardship waiver because the code requires them to place it underground first. If they cannot place it underground because they have a hardship, it would need the Board of Public Works approval. For this 72 backup power, Charter has informed us that they have about 600 locations.
Okay, that's concerning, Charter. It's concerning because we are thinking of putting 600 AGF above-ground facilities in residential areas. in the public right-of-way?
Most of them will be in the residential area in the public
Okay,
right-of-way.
so remind me again, why Charter Communication has a hardship to go underground?
Because of the size of the vault, they also is financial hardship. They have provided us some estimates. It would be about $1 million per location to place it underground because they have to construct a concrete vault and add additional equipment for dealing with moisture damage, environmental controls, and so forth.
Understood, but the flip side to that is that the city will then now have 600 above-ground street furniture in public right-of-way areas,
That's
right?
correct.
See, that's where I think BOE, and I know I've gone through these couple briefings and meetings, and we did that all last year, but I still have a hard time kind of passing this way. And Charter Communication giving us a hardship reason for not going underground, and then expect us, the city, to say yes to 600 above-ground facilities. So I just, if you guys can explain that to me, how we're reasoning that, please.
Yeah. Wesley Tenajiri again. Let me just add to that Spectrum Charter is not coming to us voluntarily to do this. This was a requirement from the California Public Utilities Commission,
Right.
that they had a requirement to install these 72-hour battery backup cabinets. And the hardship waiver is because the cabinets are, I believe, around 6 feet wide, 5 feet tall, and the vault that Tanit was describing, it's very large, and it requires additional equipment, excavation, sump pumps, and different technology that they normally don't use to install their above-ground cabinets. So these are all existing locations where they have equipment above ground, and they had to provide these backup battery cabinets to provide the power for these existing locations.
Okay, so two questions under that. I do understand that it is not like Charter's choice or decision to do this. This is a California requirement that we have to adhere to. But there was a timeline that was given last year to these folks to do. But we, BOE, have the discretion to decide whether it's going to go above ground or below ground, right?
So they are above ground as proposed, but if they're in certain specific areas, like a specific plan or a HPOZ, as Tenet mentioned before, then those specific areas require underground.
Okay, and we are looking at that case by case?
Correct. So at this time, there was 181 locations that there are requesting a hardship waiver for the undergrounding, and that's one part of the review process. The separate part is through city planning, and their management determined that they need to consider those one by one, case by case, because there's different zones and commissions and boards.
And we should probably do the same, even because I imagine the timeline has passed already, right? So can you talk to me about the timeline being passed, and do we have now an extension? The state of California give us an extension on this? Like, what happened with that timeline?
I'll let Spectrum
Okay.
comment about that.
Mr. Hidalgo? Welcome, sir. So can you clarify to us, did you guys get an extension, a waiver? What happened to the timeline that we were so under the gun last year?
Good morning, Commission President Peter Hidalgo, Director of Government Affairs for Charter Communications. With me is our project manager, Ricardo Zambrana, in our construction team. I think to answer your question, please understand that these are, in the city of Los Angeles, we've identified roughly 600 existing locations that fall within the state's designated high fire zones. So we actually have thousands of above-ground facilities throughout Southern California, but the ones that fall within the fire zones, these are the ones that we must provide battery backup for. The way that we have been able to continue the process with municipal agencies is that we must, once the deadline passed, we must have some kind of ability to provide emergency backup power. So what we will do and we have not fallen to this yet, thank God, but when there is a high fire zone and the state calls for high wind, high fire zone emergency, we then must provide, and at this point it is power generators to each of our locations as during the high fire zone period. And so the generators are powering in the unlikely event that DWP shuts down the power, we then must provide that kind of battery backup through a generator at each of these above-ground facilities, if that's helpful.
Oh, I understand that, but my understanding was we were under a timeline last year for you to complete this. Now we're in year 2, and we're just coming to board to get approval. What was the state of California? Did we get an exemption, a waiver, an extended deadline to complete this?
They said that we must, can you address this?
Sure.
That I didn't?
So, thank you, Commissioner and President Garcia. So, no extensions have been provided, so we are still required to provide up to 72 hours under any power shutoff, commercial power shutoff from the power company. Fortunately, there hasn't been any major events. If there is a major event, certainly Charter would be on the hook for any fines by the CPUC if we're unable to meet any of the backup requirements.
So technically, right now, you're under compliance, right, with the state of California?
No, we are within compliance. There haven't been any major outages, right? Or any, but if there is.
No, I
let's just say
understand,
there's
but and maybe I'm not asking the question clearly, but there was a timeline and a deadline given to your company last year, and we are just now getting the approval for this. So technically, we did not meet last year's deadline. And my question is, did you guys get an extension, a waiver, or anything? So we're technically not complying, right?
So maybe I'll put it this way. If there is a major event, right?
Right.
So today, like Peter mentioned, if there is a power shutoff and there's maybe 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sites, 10 sites or something like that, we can route technicians out there, get the generators going, go out there and regas the generators over and over.
Okay, so what I'm
but if
hearing
it's
is that you have a backup
Right,
to that.
but if it's
Got
a
it.
major, if it's a major event, right, multiple sites, we could be in jeopardy there and in violation. And we're working, Tana and Wesley's team, they're great folks. We're working through all the requirements within the city to build as many as we can. This request is not for the 600, from my understanding. It's the 181 that fall within those special districts.
Okay, well, you guys do understand that our job here as commissioner is to be stewards of public right-of-way, right? And one of the things that we do not, it's not kind of what we want to do is to put furniture in a public right-of-way. It's not our first choice to do that. So I would ask BOE to please look at the requests as they come in, whether we can go underground or we stay above ground. I don't want it to be a blanket authority that everything's going to be above ground all the time, because we don't want that many furniture in a public right-of-way.
Understood.
Okay,
Could I
sure, Commissioner Corson.
can I clarify the answer to your question? And if I'm wrong, I think Wesley could tell us if I'm wrong. But so my understanding was that Charter is not in compliance right now. And the only time that there is a financial obligation of not being in compliance is if there is an emergency and it goes down, and it's a per day fine. So as of right now, no, they're not in compliance, but the punishment of it only comes into play if there is an emergency and their systems are not working. Is that correct, Wesley?
So correct. If there is a high fire danger and DWP shuts the power down in certain locations, and if they cannot provide that 72-hour power backup, then they'll be in violation. However, as they mentioned, they do have a backup plan to provide the generators.
And then another clarification, President Garcia, I think what we did in the summer was give BOE the authority to pursue what they are bringing back to us now, which is not do it on a one-by-one basis, but bring it all back together, but also work with city planning to kind of more broadly bring it all back at one time within the guidelines we had set. I just wanted to be clear on what we did before and where we are now, and basically give an olive branch to BOE that they did what we asked them to do.
Oh, no, I hear you, but I understand that, Commissioner Corson, and I was part of these multiple conversations as well. However, what I don't want it to do moving forward with a 600 number that I'm hearing is that we're just going to say all 600 will go above ground. There has to be some kind of a, input and some kind of a partnership here that some things will go underground. And it's not just a blanket authority for everything to be above ground.
So all 600 applications are for above-ground
See,
installations.
that's where I'm still having a problem.
Yes. If I can interject, the below-ground requirement only applies to those areas that are contained in those sort of specifically designated areas, HPOZs, specific plants, otherwise. Otherwise, the city's above-ground facilities ordinance, Municipal Code Section 62.08, allows them to be above ground.
Right.
There are specific notification requirements. You have to notify all the property owners. There
Right.
are
So
size
on that
limitations
end-
and height limitations.
Got it. On
And-
that end, that
Yeah.
leads me to my next question. What if we have a protest from a resident? What's our process then?
So there is a process in place, and tenant usually handles that, and there's some negotiation between the property owner and Spectrum to try and see if they can resolve the issue with the property owner, and if not, then it comes back to the board.
And we have that hearing, and we have to mediate that
Yes.
situation. And Charter, you are part of that mediation, right? And adhere to make any flexible changes that we need to based on a resident protesting.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, I'm sorry if I'm causing more, but I just 600 above-ground facilities just doesn't really sit well quite yet. I get it, this is all in fire zone area, so they're not gonna be right where there's a lot of pedestrian walking and so forth, but we do have residents that live in that area.
Understood.
Ted, go ahead.
Yeah, just for clarification, and Wesley will correct me if I'm wrong. The process to notify adjacent property owners on both sides of the street, afford them an opportunity to object, and if necessary, we'll have a board hearing. That also applies to those areas where there's going to be a hardship waiver. So if any of these specific 181 locations trigger such a response, then we will have the ability to address those locations as well. That notice and opportunity to object and have a board hearing applies not only to the ones where they can already be above ground because they're not subject to below ground requirements, but also applies to those that are subject to the below ground requirements where there's a hardship waiver being requested.
Correct.
Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, I just wanted to make that clear, that there's a process if there's a resident that is protesting to have and correct me if I'm wrong on the specs, a 6-foot by 5 cabinet. Tenet, please correct me by that.
I can answer to that. The width is 2 by 2 in terms of width and 2 in terms of length. The height is about 4 feet,
Okay,
4 feet tall.
okay, that makes me feel better. I don't know why I heard 7 foot, you, and your presentation.
Because they have 2 types of cabinet, one single, one double.
Okay, and so they're gonna put one in each, or double?
Majority will be single, but we do have some locations that we need double cabinets.
And when it's a
and-
double, what's the measurement?
The double, twice, about 4 by 2. Just 2 singles cabinet together,
Side by side.
side by side.
So 4
About 4
total
by 2.
And, okay, got it. Okay, sorry I'm making more of this, but I just want to make sure that we have everything covered here. And just to clarify, the poles will be connected to the DWP utility? I mean, I'm sorry, the AGFs will be connected to the utility from DWP, utility pole?
It will be connected to Spectrum's or Charter's existing facilities, and most of them are on utility poles.
Okay, okay. Now, based on what we're giving authority today, or once we move forward with this item, what's our timeline to start installing these AGFs?
So we have already approved some AGFs. We have already reviewed about 490 locations. In terms of the number that we have approved, we have already approved 30 locations, and these are already under the U permit review for the underground portion of the permit.
Okay, understood. All right, I think that was the end of my my questions that I have here. Anything else, colleagues?
Yeah, I just had a question.
Sure, Dr. Davis.
Generally, how did we get to this point in terms of the challenge that the vendor has, Charter in this case, that we are to a point strategically where they need to have this special arrangement and not have had time to strategically prepare for these other areas? I understand you to say the special district areas, that this is in fact where we apply underground. So therefore, every other area that doesn't have the H whatever area designations are not in a position to benefit from an underground implementation. But what was it and how is it that they come to this point to be in this position to have this happen?
So if I understand the question correctly, why is it that they have to install above ground for all 600 locations? So based on what they provide to us from their reasons, it would be, really, really difficult for them to place everything below grade because of the size of the vault to place each location underground would be costly, and placing it underground is limited. For them to do it, it's really limited because they have to be within 40 or 50 feet away from the existing. And in the sidewalk, having a vault in the sidewalk is really difficult with that size.
So I guess the question is, why did we just now realize that there was going to be this need in these areas that have been presented today? 600 areas. How and why is it that now we just discovered that this was going to be needed? Had we known in advance, we may have been able to strategically implement some resources by which the challenge would not be as great as it is today in the motion before us today. So that's really the question. Why is it now that we are just discovering this need?
Thank you for that. Yes, so the AGF process is very complicated process, and Spectrum did come to us, I believe, late 2021, letting us know this was going to happen, and that's when we came up with the streamlined AGF process that we brought to you in the summer of 2022. So once Spectrum knew about it and they knew about the difficulties that they would be coming to with the City of LA, they came to us and strategized with us to come up with those streamlined processes. But there are certain things that we cannot just say or waive and say you don't have to do it. So we came up with the bulk hardship waivers, which is what we did today, and previously we came in for a volume variance, and that was also in the summer that was adopted by the board. So we have known about it, and we tried to strategize with them. It's just that at this point of the process, as Spectrum submits their applications, this is where we are in the process with this board report.
Well, that's helpful information to know.
Thank you, Dr. Davis, also for that. All right, well, Commissioner Reyes, you have your light on?
Yeah, I just want to throw in my perspective why I kind of understood the conundrum that we are in, having worked with the electric vehicle car share charging stations before, and having dealt with the AGF. And it was really a learning process for me, and also the U permits and all that. I know you probably remember that. But we do have the ordinance, and there are requirements, and there are certain conditions that have to be met, and there are nuances in each location that are needed. And so that conversation with whoever is the operator is really very important. And I appreciate that you are working very closely together, because the last thing we need is that it will be a nuisance to the neighborhood, and that we should be really looking at if there are alternatives, alternative locations that we could identify. But right now, with the variance or the hardship that you are asking for, I do understand why it's happening and why we are at this certain point in time needing to do that. So thank you for that information.
Thank you, Commissioner Reyes. Understood. I think overall my message is that we shouldn't just say A-OK to all AGFs. I think there needs to be I know we given a kind of like, I wouldn't say a blanket authority, but in a way it is a blanket authority for you to look at these in bulks. But when there is a place and we could go underground and continue to preserve our open space and our public right-of-ways, that would be the direction that I would love to go first, instead of just saying, yes, let's put AGFs above grounds. But I get it. I also don't want us, we're already out of compliance. Well, not us, but mostly charter is, not the city, the charter is. So timeline has kind of come and gone now. There's an official backup if we do get into any situation. So I just want us to be very diligent. I say us, BOE, very diligent of where we're going to place these AGFs. Sure.
I'd like to also say that as we collaborate with companies, and we do, and this is our business, I would like to see us start thinking in terms of phasing in solutions. They came to us in 2021. This is 2023. It would have appeared to me in our collaboration that collectively we could have come up with some effective strategy to phase in some of these, and it wouldn't be 600 today. Had we thought, when we came to us in 21, that was a call, a ringing of the bell, that we need to implement a solution. And somehow between the two of us, two heads, they've always told me is better than one, we could have come up with some solutions then, which would make it so alarming now, if you will. So that would be my takeaway. When we come with these problems, let's strategically think about how can we advance solutions right then, as we know it's going to gain in terms of challenge. So that would be my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Davis, I agree. Obviously, installing 181 AGFs doesn't come easy for us, so thank you, all of you guys, for being here and answering all of our questions. Look forward to discussing when there's any discrepancies or any residents that are not happy with this. Please bring it to my attention. I always want to make sure that we find the most possible and best solution for our community and our public. So please make sure that you elevate that to my office.
Yes.
Thank you. Is there a motion on the table to move item number 2 forward and forthwith?
Given the motion before us, I move that we accept this proposal.
Thank you, Dr. Davis. Is there a second?
Second?
Thank you, Commissioner Corzine. Dr. Campos, there's the first by Dr. Davis and a second by Commissioner Corzine to move item number 2 forward and forthwith.
Yes, let's start the voting tabulation
you.
now. We'll start with you, President Garcia.
Aye.
Vice President Villegas.
Aye.
President Pro Tem Davis.
Aye.
Commissioner Corzine.
Aye.
And Commissioner Reyes.
Aye.
This motion is adopted and carries unanimous.
Great. Thank you, everybody here. Thank you, Charter Communication, for being here as well. Look forward to working with you collaboratively and in a good spirit. Thank you very much. All right, moving on to item number 3. This is a request in Council District 11, construction orders and change orders, Murray Company Hyperion Water Reclamation Project, Headworks Overflow Bypass Improvement, CIP 2516. Are there any public comment for item number 3, Dr. Campos?
Not at this time, however. I can just double-check any members of the general public that would like to speak on item number 3. The Board of Public Works is considering item number 3, the construction change order and change orders to Murray Company. If you'd like to speak, you can please raise your hand at this time by pressing *9 or click the raise hand icon. President Garcia, we do have one hand that was raised.
Okay, let's take public comment for item number 3.
Silva Blackstone, if you can please unmute your microphone at this time by pressing *6 or just click the unmute button. You'll have 2 minutes to speak under item number 3. Please go ahead. Silva Blackstone, if you can please unmute your microphone. There you go. You'll have 2 minutes to speak under item number 3.
I meant to speak on the last item. I had already lowered my hand. Okay, bye.
Thank you.
Dr. Campos, for clarity, can you confirm that she raised her hand while the item was already in motion?
Yes, this is just to confirm that Ms. Blackstone did raise hand after the item was called to the table.
Thank you very
This is
much.
for item number 2, not for item number 3.
For number 2. For item number 3, public comments now officially closed. Thank you very much. Recommending the board to, 1, authorize a construction budget of $9,116,091, including contingency, and 2, authorize the city engineer to issue construction orders and change orders CIP 2516, Headworks Overflow Bypass Improvements to Murray Company up to the authorized construction budget for this project. And this morning here we have Mr. Wong again. Welcome, Mr. Wong.
Good morning. Once again, this is Ethan Wong with the Bureau of Engineering's Environmental Engineering Division. This project is in response to the major sewer spill that occurred at the Hyperion Water Reclamation Plant on July 11th, 2021. After that, the board created an ad hoc committee to identify improvements that would prevent future spills. That committee produced a report that was issued on February 11, 2022, and this was one of the projects that was contained within those findings. The Hyperion Water Reclamation Plant's Headworks Overflow Bypass improvements will include removing and replacing 3 10-foot by 10-foot stainless steel hydrogate sluice gates and road torque actuators in the Headworks east and west bypass channels. It will also remove and replace 18 9-foot by 9-foot stainless steel hydrogate sluice gates and road torque actuators in 9 bar screen channels. We will also be modifying Headworks bar screen channels 1 through 10 and the west bypass channels to provide passive overflow. So what we're looking to do is basically, if there is an event that raises the water within these influent channels, there will be a passive weir that will allow overflow without operators on site. This will create extra response time for the plant to respond to rising levels within the Headworks facility where the other spill occurred. We will also be rehabbing these gates that I mentioned, which many are seized in place, and these will provide operational flexibility to bypass flow around the bar screens, which will prevent flooding at the Headworks facility in the future. We will also be installing other appurtenances such as level indicators, uninterrupted power supply for the bar screen channels 1 and 10, so those gates always function in emergency even with power loss. And we will be integrating all of these features into the distributed control system to provide remote monitoring and control. The Bureau of Engineering operates an emergency on-call list for projects at our wastewater treatment plants, where there are 8 contractors who have been pre-qualified for this emergency type work. This project has been in design since February 11th, 2022. We solicited bids from the top 3 contractors on this list, which were Kiewit, United Riggers, and Murray Company. Murray Company submitted the lowest bid at $8,681,991. We did receive authority back in December from Vice President Villegas to proceed with work then, and they have ongoing work at the Headworks facility in response to this important project. That concludes my report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions related to this. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Ethan, for that. I see Vice President Villegas.
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate that the actions before us were indeed included in the report that this board heard, I think in February of last year, and it just includes many preventative measures that will help Hyperion Water Reclamation Plant.
Thank you for that, Vice President. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Okay, is there a motion on the table to move item number 3 forward and forthwith?
So moved.
Thank you, VP Villegas. Is there a second? Thank you, Dr. Davis. Dr. Campos is the first by VP Villegas and a second by Dr. Davis to move item number 3 forward and forthwith.
Yes, let's start the voting tabulation now. We'll start with you, President Garcia.
Aye.
Vice President Villegas.
Aye.
President Pro Tem Davis.
Aye.
Commissioner Corzan.
Aye.
And Commissioner Reyes.
Aye.
This motion is adopted and carries unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Ethan. You are off to a start here. You have a lot of budget going on.
Thank you.
53.9, and so there you go. You can
Absolutely.
go spend money now.
I'll get back to work. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on to item number 4, and I believe Ms. Martinez is here for this item. But Ms. Martinez, just quick question. Can we take 4 through 9 together? Okay. I am going to just read the titles of it, just for the record, and then I'm going to let you do your big splash presentation. How's that? Item number 4, this is in Council District 2 and 4, subcontract substitutions for Servitec Electric, Inc. Item number 5, Council District 1, subcontractor substitution Ford EC, Inc. Item number 6, Council District 14, subcontractor substitution Axiom Group. Item number 7, Council District 6, subcontractor substitution Green Building Corporation. Item number 9, Council District 15, subcontractor substitution PCL Construction, Inc. And lastly, item number 9, Council District 3, subcontractor substitution Agile Corporation, DBA Lee Construction Company. And I'll turn it over to you, Ms. Martinez.
Good morning, President Garcia and Commissioners and Dr. Campos. Thank you. Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
For the agenda items, do you want me to say the title for each one, or?
I just already called it in, so it's up to you if you want to do one big presentation or go one by one.
Okay. I'll do a summary.
Okay.
For the first one, agenda item 4, the contractor Servitec sent a certified letter of intent to their bid-listed small business enterprise, subcontractor Technico TV Incorporated, on October 10th, 2022, to substitute them with Servitec, who would self-perform their portion of the work. Technico was non-responsive to Servitec's attempts to reach them, so subsequently, Servitec is requesting to self-perform Technico's $82,370 portion of work for the street lighting, concrete foundations, and the galvanized conduit installation at no additional cost to the city. Number 5, contractor Ford EC sent a certified letter on November 2nd, 2022 to substitute their bid-listed OBE subcontractor Barbario Enterprises, which is also called Westco, with OBE subcontractor Subtle Plumbing and a Mechanical Corporation. The substitution was due to Westco requesting to withdraw their bid of $385,000 portion of work for site utility and plumbing due to unforeseen events and scheduling conflicts. Subtle's portion of the work would be $208,000, and Ford EC's portion would be $177,000 for site utility, backfill, and trailer connections for the bid-listed amount of $385,000, again at no additional cost to the city. Item number 6, General Contractor Axiom Group sent a certified letter of intent on October 29, 2022, to their bid-listed small business enterprise subcontractor Westpac Concrete Incorporated to substitute them with small business enterprise contractor West Pacific Concrete. Both companies were owned by a single gentleman. The substitution request was due to the dissolution of Westpac Concrete Incorporated. Axiom, is requesting that West Pacific Concrete perform Westpac Concrete's bid-listed amount of $10,000 portion of work for the catch basin and maintenance hole installation at no additional cost to the city. Number 7, Green Building Corporation. They too sent a certified letter of intent on October 5th, 2022 to their bid-listed DBE, MBE, SBE electrical subcontractor All-in-One Electric to substitute them with another DBE, MBE, SBE subcontractor Cambrian Electric Incorporated. All-in-One Electric had previously stated that due to the overwhelming rising costs and prices across the board, they couldn't perform their $320,830 portion of electrical work due to this financial hardship. Subsequently, All-in-One Electric was non-responsive in Green Building Corporation's attempts to contact them regarding the substitution. Cambrian's portion of electrical work would be $322,650, which is a difference of $1,820 from the bid-listed amount of $320,830. Subsequently, Green Building will reduce their prime participation by $1,820 so that this substitution will be at no additional cost to the city. Number 8, PCL Construction Incorporated also sent a certified letter of intent on September 2nd, 2022 to their bid-listed OBE subcontractor CSI Electrical Contractors to substitute them with another OBE subcontractor, Lead Electric Incorporated. The substitution request was due to CSI giving formal notice that they would be receding their bid due to unforeseen market conditions and could no longer perform the electrical work for the amount of $870,750. Lead Electric will complete this portion of the electrical work for this said amount at no additional cost to the city. Number 9, Adjul Corporation, I hope I said that right, Adjul Corporation sent a certified letter of intent on October 17, 2022 to their bid-listed OBE subcontractor, Channel Contracting Incorporated, to substitute them with MBE subcontractor, LNA Concrete Structures, to perform the concrete work on the project. The substitution request was due to Channel Contracting giving formal notice, and I quote, due to the delay of starting the project and the increased costs of concrete, rebar, labor, and fuel, that they would not be able to provide their services for this job for $87,000. Since LNA Concrete Structures Incorporated submitted an amount of $87,900 to perform this work, Adjul Corporation will reduce their prime participation by $900 to meet the $87,000 portion of concrete work for the project at no additional cost to the city. In closing, the Bureau of Contract Administration has verified that all of these contractors have complied with the good faith effort outreach, and for that reason, we are requesting the board to approve all of these substitutions. Thank you all so much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Martinez, for that presentation. I have Vice President Villegas with lights on.
Thank you. Yes, I just have observation and perhaps a question, and if you can't answer it, that's fine. You can get back to me later. It seems like the majority of these substitutions are with electrical work.
Yes.
And it's unfortunate that we have companies that are not able to fulfill the work. Is that correct? And they find substitutes to be able to do that work.
Yes,
And then reduce the work because they don't want to have a loss for the city. in terms of costs?
Yes, the general contractor, yes, reducing some of the costs, yes.
Okay,
Well, their participation, rather.
yeah. In my opinion, it's upsetting. I don't know if that is the correct word. I don't like to see Servitec Electric on here again and again and again on these types of substitutes. Perhaps they shouldn't be winning contracts in the future, my opinion, observation. And then we have the others that are also, in one form of another, aren't able to do the work and yet find substitutes. My concern is they're all in the electrical industry. I'm not sure if this is a trend. I understand about rising prices, but I don't know if this is a trend or if it's our concern or our problem in identifying contractors who cannot do the work. Opinion, and just letting you know, just for the record. And perhaps we should have maybe Commissioner Davis, work closely with identifying perhaps flaws in the way that we're selecting some of our contractors. Because ultimately, the contractor who's being substituted is missing out on the full payment of what they could have had. And it's a time loss for the city.
These are all valid points.
Do you want to speak, Dr. Davis?
Yes, sir.
I don't know if we've examined the issue here in terms of various electrical companies being the ones that have had what appears to us to be challenges in this work, but we certainly should examine it and determine if there is some common theme around why it is that these electrical assignments have been difficult and not have been fulfilled, as has been suggested in the original plan that contractors gave us. So I know that contract administration certainly is fully capable of examining that and sharing with us the findings. So I would certainly support that, Commissioner.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you both. That was really a big observation on my end too. And I guess my question is more overall. Is it unusual to have so many subcontractor substitution at this time? Is like a spike happening right now? Perhaps we're not bidding it right, or what do you think is happening?
Well, on some of these, I noticed when I was reviewing the packet that they were saying the start of the job was delayed, and because costs went up. And I know copper wire, right now is crazy through the roof as far as the cost. People are stealing, as you probably all know, wire out of streetlight poles. Now they're digging up the pole boxes, stealing the wire out of that, and they're putting pole boxes now underneath sidewalks to prevent theft, removing handholds, as you probably know, from streetlights and putting them either at the very top of the pole or eliminating them entirely. So I understand the cost of everything. Look at eggs. Look at anything that you go to your supermarket for. So I understand some of these things, but I did not know Servitec, time and time again, was on the docket for these reasons.
Yeah.
And so, yes, I will follow up with finding out why. What can we do different?
Exactly. Yeah. Do we need to reassess our bidding? I mean, it just seemed we had quite a few today, and usually we have 2, 3, maybe 4, but it's unusually high today. So and I was hearing your reasoning, it's the cost, and like you just said, time, but we definitely need to see that. And good point and good observation on Servitec, Vice President Villegas. I do hope that we continue to put an eye on that. We've had issues in the past, but I want to make sure that they're fulfilling their contract this time.
Absolutely.
I think the data is critically important, President, to find out what the real facts are.
Yeah,
I would hate to, we could always give a hypothesis of what we think it is, but nothing is more important than getting the data. So just for an example, you just mentioned a delay. If in fact it is a delay, the subs may decide that it's not worth their investment because they can't make any money because of the delay. And that they wouldn't finish on time and that it would not be costly. Well, that's just one hypothesis, but we really need the data. We really need the facts in terms of what's going on, because if it's something in our operation that's causing a delay, it has a trickling effect. So let's get the data, and then we'll be able to make a more intelligent decision.
I promise to follow up with the board.
Thank you, Angela, and I appreciate that. But a good point on that. If it's something time, if it's our end, their end, we just need to fix the situation then. Okay, thank you for that. Okay, colleagues, is there a motion on the table to approve items 4 through 9?
So move.
Thank you, Dr. Davis. Is there a second? Thank you, Commissioner Reyes. Dr. Campos, there's a first by Dr. Davis and a second by Commissioner Reyes to approve items 4 through 9 forward and forthwith.
Great, absolutely. We'll start the voting tabulation now. We'll start with you, President Garcia.
Aye.
Vice President Villegas.
Aye.
President Pro Tem Davis.
Aye.
Commissioner Corzan.
Aye.
And Commissioner Reyes.
Aye.
This motion is adopted and carries unanimous. Again, this is for items 4 through 9.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Ms. Martinez. Very happy to see you, and have a good rest of the week.
Thank you.
Weekend now. The weekend starts.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you. All right, colleagues, moving on to our last phase of today's agenda, which is the oral reports. In this morning, we're still at morning, right, is Mr. Sal Almeida here with us. Good morning, sir. Welcome.
Good morning.
And just let me read it into the record. This is item number 10, status update on major upcoming street improvement projects by the Bureau of Street Services.
Good morning, President Garcia, Commissioners, Bureau Representatives, and Dr. Campos. My name is Saul Almeida, Superintendent with Street Renewal Division of Streets LA. This information is being provided to keep the public informed on the upcoming resurfacing projects and to minimize the impact on the community as well as delays. For additional information or concerns, you can contact Coordinating Section for Street Renewal Division at 213-847-3200. There are no major street projects scheduled in the Metro or the Valley region during the week of February 12th, 2023 through February 18th, 2023. However, we will provide an update on our 22-23 pavement preservation program. During the week of February 12th, 2023 through February 18th, 2023, the Metro region will complete 8 projects for a total of 8.09 lane miles. During the week of February 12th, 2023 through February 12th, through February 18th, 2023, the Valley region will complete a total of 7 projects for a total of 1.67 lane miles. The press releases were distributed and notifications have been issued. Streets LA has coordinated with council offices to assist in outreach to stakeholders. We have coordinated with Los Angeles Department of Transportation for traffic control assistance. This information is also available on Streets LA website at streetsla.lacity.org using the Resurfacing Open Projects icon. This concludes my report.
Thank you so much, Mr. Almeida. Any questions for the Bureau of Street Services? Seeing none, thank you so much. Thank you for your
very
time this
much.
morning.
Thank you.
Have a good weekend.
Yes, thank you.
Dr. Campos, does that clear today's desk?
Yes, it does.
Thank you so much. Colleagues, it is now 11:43 on Friday, February 10, and this meeting is officially adjourned. Thank you, everyone. We'll have management meeting